Hey everyone, is it just me, or is it getting crazier out there? The Oscar nominations were officially revealed last week, and while the awards race is far from over, I can't help but feel a lingering feeling of what the hell is happening, why is this happening, and what did I do to deserve this? Because this whole award season just feels off, and I promise it's not just because of one movie, though we'll get to it. But so many of this year's Oscar contenders have just the most interesting storylines or discourse, whether it's about AI, Catholicism, or Brazilians. And let me say this off the top, if you love a movie that everyone else hates, say it with your chest. Who cares? And vice versa. Do not let people make you feel bad about having a different opinion. Okay, people can have opinions on things, but also people can have opinions on your opinions. It's all fair game as long as nothing crosses the line. Okay, so I just want to say that off the top. So with that being said, let's talk about the awards race. I'm going to go through every single Best Picture nominee and talk about any discourse, whether positive or negative. Let's start with the one that has the most baggage, Emilia Pérez. Fresh off a near record 10 Golden Globe nominations, winning 4 of them, including Best Picture in its respective category, garnering 11 BAFTA nominations, the second most of any film. Emilia Pérez got 13 Oscar nominations. To put that number in comparison, 14 is the all-time record held by All About Eve, Titanic, and La La Land. It was one Selena Gomez nomination away from tying the all-time record. It now by far holds the record for most nominations by a non-English language film, previously held by Roma and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon with 10. And for a recent comparison, Oppenheimer got 13 nominations just last year. And I promise I'm not like trying to be sly about this, okay? I've made very apparent my feelings about this movie, and usually I wouldn't talk about something like this if I really dislike a movie, but I think with the sheer dominance that this movie has had so far in this awards run, I think it's fair to talk about it. So let's get into it. And there's a lot to get into. I do not like speaking in absolutes, but I am okay in making generalizations, and I think even fans of Emilia Pérez would admit most audiences do not like this movie. Whether it's the IMDb score, the Rotten Tomatoes audience score, or the Letterboxd curve, Emilia Pérez is one of the lowest rated movies to garner such acclaim. Now that on its own is not surprising. The Academy routinely embraces movies that are, should I say, divisive. Crash won Best Picture, Green Book won Best Picture. I mean, The Blind Side was a Best Picture nominee, but Emilia Pérez feels so much wider in its gap. Make no mistake on what you see on Twitter, Green Book was loved by audiences, as was something like The Blind Side. So why has this movie become such an Oscar juggernaut? There are always multiple reasons for that, but I guess you can whittle it down to people want to feel good. And they want a reason to feel good. They want to feel good about why they're voting for something. Say what you want about Green Book, but it was a feel-good movie that made people feel that they were doing the right thing, honoring a movie about race. And Emilia Pérez, on the surface, does have that to its advantage. A story set in Mexico about gender identity, starring a real trans woman, and seeing a movie like that get recognized on the highest stage is something we do not see very often, if at all. In the awards, have not stopped since its first premiere. It won the Jury Prize and Best Actress at the Cannes Film Festival, as runner-up at the Toronto International Film Festival. And again, this isn't something I would usually talk about, but with the awards bodies going crazy over it, I think it's okay. Because as a straight Asian male, it is certainly not my place to talk about some of these issues here, and I wouldn't. Fortunately, I don't have to, because many critics and audiences alike from either Mexico or the LGBTQ community have spoken up criticizing this movie. Not only for having a French director who has already taken some backlash after admitting to not researching much about Mexico, has never been to Mexico, wasn't shot in Mexico, and it's just lack of authenticity. Rodrigo Prieto, an amazing cinematographer, called it inauthentic and troubling. Others suggest it exploits the cartel and the violence of drug trafficking and those who have disappeared just to make an entertainment product. Other LGBTQ critics have spoken out, who have called it a regressive picture masquerading as progressive, or saying it hits just about every single trans trope you can imagine. For which the star Carla Sofia Gascon has responded to that, saying, quote, "Being LGBTQ, having those labels, does not remove your stupidity," which is a pretty rough response, let me say. Now, I'm gonna have to interrupt myself because as I was kind of making this video, more things have popped up. First, some viral tweets of Zoe Saldana, basically in blackface in the movie Nina, has resurfaced. There was a huge viral tweet labeling Zoe Saldana a Zionist with a thread about that. But most recently, and this is so shocking, I found this last night, Carla Sofia Gascon went on Twitter and seemingly compared the criticism and hate that the movie is receiving to the same oppression that the Jews experienced in Germany. Chat, am I reading this right? Her initial tweet got community noted, she deleted it, and then later in the day posted the same exact tweet. She then went on private and then put out another tweet, which I translated saying, "I am only responsible for what I say, not for what others interpret about what I say. The manipulation of my words or what others think or say is what others manipulate, interpret, think, or say." Now, obviously, that is with Google Translate. I'm definitely sure something's fell through the crack, but you can understand the general message. What the fuck is going on? And then I found another tweet saying that a group of Mexicans responded to Emilia Pérez by making a French film called Johann Sacre Bleu, a French-inspired film made entirely without a French person on the cast or crew. And yes, it is a real thing. I am looking at the video right now. Obviously, it is satire, but you understand the point. And then as if that's not enough, I saw this tweet here that basically says that some people were so fed up with Emilia Pérez that an institution actually had to step in and get in talks with the country's most popular cinema chain to handle the sheer amount of people asking for a refund after watching it. And I looked it up. They did tweet about it, something like that. You can look at it there. Truly, what the fuck is happening? This all happened within like a day. So what? So that's all insane. But I guess let me get back to what I was talking about before. I saw the movie back in September at TIFF, and back then, it was considered a hot take to say I didn't like Emilia Pérez. And I always avoided the comments on that video, especially after receiving quite a bit of backlash online and even in person after that video. But now that people have seen the movie, I went back to the comments, and I was shocked to see how many people from those communities outright hating it. And I think this might be the most damning thing for Emilia Pérez is the GLAAD organization. It's a nonprofit organization focused on LGBTQ advocacy and cultural change. It had its own list of nominations and did not include Emilia Pérez at all. And in fact, it posted an article critiquing the movie's trans representation. So when an organization founded on upholding and representing those same values that you claim your movie is supposed to have, I think it's fair game for people to talk about it and question it. And I know the Emilia Pérez lovers have already clicked off this video and disliked it. That is totally okay. But listen, you're winning. There is obviously a huge disconnect. The industry continues to embrace it, and maybe all the backlash is just fueling them to continue voting for it more. But voting for this movie, partly because it feels progressive, just feels false. It rings a little hollow. It's a problem I had with the movie when I saw it, and now that more people have seen it, it has definitely gotten even larger. But for every tweet about Emilia Pérez that seemingly goes viral criticizing it, in comes another celebrity saying it is one of their favorite movies of the year. And you combine that with the sheer amount of nominations, and you have an Oscar frontrunner at hand. And every single year, an Oscar frontrunner or huge contender seemingly gets attacked or criticized, whether fair or not. We saw it with La La Land leading to its Best Picture loss, or in a different way, we saw it with Coda, which started getting criticized much more after its win. And I guess my main thought with that is what comes with the Oscars. If you are deemed the best movie of the year or one of the best movies of the year, you are subject to more criticism. Now, if you want to turn around and say that's why we shouldn't treat art as a competition, that's fair, and that's another topic for another day. But that is what comes with the title. And speaking personally and existentially here, I think this is just bad for the Oscars if it ends up going in the direction that I fear it will. Every year, there is so much talk on what kind of movies the Oscars choose to recognize or not recognize. And I'm not talking about, like, why didn't Spider-Man get nominated or Endgame or something like that, but it's always a fascinating discussion to me because we have our Oppenheimers, a movie that is big, made a lot of money, people saw, had the merits of a Best Picture winner, and it won. And we also have our Moonlights, a small indie movie not a lot of people saw, but was seen as incredible and important, and its Best Picture win gave it a huge spotlight and boost. But when the Academy gives Emilia Pérez a record number of nominations, and Lord give me strength, if they give it Best Picture, a movie that is small, not a lot of people have seen, but is also deemed as bad, inauthentic, and offensive to the community it tries to represent, I just think that's a bad package. Like, what are we doing here? And the way it's looking, at least as of when I'm recording, Emilia Pérez does have a very clear path to a Best Picture win. So what are the alternatives this year? Well, let's go through them a little bit more quickly one by one. Let's go with The Brutalist. A near 3.5-hour epic with an intermission had a good day on Oscar morning with 10 nominations. This coming off its good showing at the Golden Globes with 3 wins for Best Actor, Best Director, and Best Picture Drama. Now, this is the kind of movie that we usually see where it feels like it starts off really strong and then loses steam by the end. Think Power of the Dog or Roma, movies that are highly well regarded, earning Best Director wins or maybe some additional text, but loses the big prize to a more agreeable movie due to the preferential ballot. And that's where I think the movie is. A Variety article stated that some voters are even even having trouble even going through the whole movie or are putting it off due to its sheer length. I mean, my own friend said she fell asleep at certain parts of the second act, and it's a rather challenging film that will have some people questioning some of its decisions. I mean, that's it, right? That's not like bad discourse. Like AI. The Brutalist has been caught right in the AI crosshairs of a huge targeted campaign, it feels like, after its editor mentioned the use of it using re-speecher and some aspects of the buildings. Now, I know this is an insanely hot topic for some people, okay, and it does require some nuance here, but I'll kind of skip towards the end here. Brady Corbet has cleaned up some of the talk behind it, stating that re-speecher tech was used in the Hungarian language dialogue editing only. It was used to kind of refine certain vowels and letters that are harder for non-Hungarian speakers to pronounce, and that the production design team did not use AI to create or render any of the buildings, as all images were hand-drawn by artists. Now, some people think this is a non-story and people need to move on and get a life, while other people believe that AI is a hard line drawn in the sand and it is a slippery slope. And this video isn't to discuss the moral implications of AI in The Brutalist, but it is additional discourse, and you can't act like it doesn't affect 0% at all. And you know it's bad when Emilia Pérez is cited in the same company and was used arguably in a worse way, but that story didn't gain any traction the way The Brutalist did. And now, whether fair or not, there is some AI discourse floating around The Brutalist, mainly in Adrian Brody's case. Again, speaking personally, I don't think this will affect The Brutalist in any single way. I guess you can make a case it'll affect Adrian Brody a little bit more, but it goes to show it's getting a little messy. Anora, at least as far as I have seen, outside of the people who don't like Anora being very loud that they don't like it, there isn't that much discourse here. I mean, of course, there's always a discussion on sex in movies, especially in a movie about a sex worker, which will always make for some type of discussion.
Hi, it's me from the future. So some of my video got corrupted in this Anora part. Basically, I talked about the intimacy coordinator discourse. Mikey Madison on Actors revealed that she was asked if she wanted an intimacy coordinator, for which she declined. Now, some people thought this was a non-story. Again, if the main actor and lead, and I assume the rest of the cast, was comfortable with this decision, then what is there to talk about? But others talk about the other parts of the crew, like the cast or the extras, that may not feel comfortable with that one, and it should be a mandatory requirement. And that did last for a few days, and the discussion there does require some nuance, which I'm certainly not going to get into in this YouTube video. And something new that has been brought to my attention is once Yura Borisov was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, I did see some tweets going around that, were basically upset about that. And that's totally normal. Some people are upset about certain snubs or surprises or whichever, and I guess he was just the target of it. But then I saw some tweets basically saying that this is bad because he starred in a Russian propaganda film, and considering what's been going on with Russia and Ukraine, you can see why some people are upset. It is just crazy how these things come to light whenever the Oscars come around. I don't know if it's just because I haven't been paying attention to it the past few years, or if this year is actually just getting more messy. Now I have to transition back to my past self. How do I do that? Okay, but the discourse has died down a little bit, right? Until the Criterion disc cover was released. Some people had very passionate responses to this cover, ranging from topics such as "This is why Sean Baker is trash" to misogyny. I mean, forget the fact that it's paying homage to another film with its cover. And I really don't mean to be insensitive here when I say this, because I usually hate when people say this, but people are dying. Are we really gonna get up in arms about a disc cup? I mean, I don't know. Now, thankfully, this talk didn't last very long, but I'll admit, as I was going through my Twitter, seeing all these tweets about it, I did wonder in my brain, is this actually worth it? Wicked. 10 nominations for Wicked, yeah, that's a lot. The discourse on this movie doesn't really stray too far from what we've seen previously. Besides the "this movie is ugly" discourse, take a side on that, I really don't care. Or the "this is a part 1, part 2 comes out next year, we can wait," which a lot of other movies face. Really, Wicked is just involved in Stan Wars. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a Selena Gomez Twitter account trashing Wicked, or vice versa. It is kind of funny when Stan culture comes into the awards race, as I see both Stan accounts claiming that they are the more successful one, and really, it depends how you answer that. Ariana Grande was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, a category that Selena Gomez missed out on, which is quite surprising for some, considering Emilia Pérez got literally everything else. And you can say Ariana Grande is still in win contention, so that is a point for the Ariana stance, for sure. But you could also say Emilia Pérez is by far the strongest film out of the two. I mean, clearly the most embraced by the Academy and could win Best Picture, so that's a W for Selena stans too. And the thing is, the Ariana stans are just getting ready, because Wicked for Good comes out later this year.
So they're not done. Conclave. So this one is interesting. 8 nominations, which is good, but you can argue it underperformed after Edward Berger missed for director and it missed a cinematography nomination. But Conclave has kind of gone through the whole awards season without a hiccup, really. When I saw the movie back in September, I really thought the ending of this movie, the whole twist ending, was going to cause much more of an uproar than it actually did. And in a way, I guess you can say it did. I mean, Ben Shapiro made a whole video on it. Megyn Kelly made a long tweet about it. But really, it never went anywhere. It never turned into an actually harmful campaign, and in fact I started seeing brat memes with Conclave instead, and it's a rather agreeable movie. I mean, most people I know at the very least like it or enjoy it, and obviously some people love it. And I'll admit, even though it missed director, there still is a part of me that's like, could this just kind of skate on by to a best picture win through the preferential ballot? I honestly don't know, but at this point I am literally rooting for almost every single other movie besides, you know, A Complete Unknown. This movie definitely overperformed on Oscar morning with 8 nominations, including a surprise in Best Director.
James Mangold.
Oh my god. What are you doing? Arguably the biggest star of his generation in Timothée Chalamet playing Bob Dylan. I mean, of course, this appealed to a certain section of the Academy. Honestly, there's no real discourse here. Outside of the mid allegations, which isn't discourse at all, I mean, people are just kind of like okay with this movie. In fact, Matt Bellany from Puck News, who is pretty in the know, actually went on to predict this movie will win Best Picture.
On record saying I thought Brutalist would win. I think A Complete Unknown is going to pull it out.
Now that seems crazy to me, but as we have figured out this year, I mean, nothing is truly that crazy. Plus, when you throw in an all-time marketing awards campaign from Timothée Chalamet, from the ESPN Game Day to Nardwuar to hosting and being the musical guest on SNL, I mean, who knows what could happen? Will he be the youngest Best Actor winner in history? Will the Brutalist AI thing hurt Adrian Brody and propel Chalamet to a win? What will I have for dinner today? Nickel Boys. Nickel Boys squeaks in Best Picture after only garnering Best Adapted Screenplay. A challenging movie for sure. Tough subject matter, shot almost entirely in the first-person point of view. I'm not entirely surprised to hear that some people did struggle with it a little bit. But honestly, with the movie, there really is no discourse here. I mean, the main discourse is with Amazon struggling to actually market it. It's kind of flopping at the box office right now. But I will say this movie getting a Best Picture nomination is still evidence that the Academy is really changing. I mean, could you imagine this movie getting nominated for Best Picture even just a decade ago during the Oscar So White era? No. Dune Part 2. Alright, this is where the subjective in me comes out. The discourse here is, what the fuck is going on? I realize the Academy struggles with sequels, but the fact that this has like a 0% chance of doing anything, I mean, what the fuck is going on? Even though it does not happen all the time and people are going to throw a bunch of different movies at me, I mean, really, the Academy does still struggle with movies that aren't released from October to December. If it's released before then, it's an uphill battle. It came out in March, it made more money, it's widely received as better, and yet Denis Villeneuve misses a Best Director nomination again? It's like, oh, Dune Messiah is coming. Bro, I don't give a fuck. I hate the nature of waiting for another part or the finale of a franchise to award it. I hate it. And I will say the same thing about Wicked. If people believe that Wicked is the best movie of the year, people vote for it in Best Picture. Put it at number 1. Don't say, oh, Part 2 is coming next year. Let me just wait. No, fuck that. Dune Messiah is fucking weird, and I'm sure they're going to make some changes, but there is no guarantee that Denis Villeneuve and the whole movie will be back again to reward it. I mean, this could solve the issue of like the Best Picture winner, you know, a movie that people have seen, people love generally speaking, and has the merits of a Best Picture winner still, has an artistic vision. I mean, this could solve the problem right here. The substance. You know, in my own Oscar reactions, I was so appalled by the Emilia Pérez love, and I was so shocked by another movie that we'll get into, that I never fully took the time to appreciate the substance getting in, a genre that routinely gets ignored by the Academy. But it seems they're due to recognize one at least every 7-8 years. I think Get Out was the last one. And I support this, not only because I do like the movie, but I will root for a horror movie to get in. We need to break genre bias, animation bias in Best Picture. I mean, there are 10 slots for fuck's sake. I would have never thought this movie would be embraced. I mean, the last like 20 minutes of this movie is literally the most blood-spewing gore thing you've ever seen. But it's amazing that it happened. And honestly, people just seem to like this movie. This is for Hereditary. This is for every single other Jordan Peele movie besides Get Out. This is for all the horror movies that have been overlooked. No more. All right, no more. Let's keep this shit up. And then I'm still here. The biggest shock in a Best Picture lineup in quite some time. Fernanda Torres really put the team on her back and carried it to a Best Picture nomination.
Hi, it's me from the future again. So another thing that has popped up, which I just can't believe how much is actually going on here. I saw a tweet that said Fernanda Torres apologizes for being in blackface, and I dropped my phone. I was like, what the hell is going on? Now, this one was about 17 years ago in a Brazilian TV comedy sketch show where she did appear in blackface. She issued an apology about it. She was very upfront about it. And that's kind of that. Again, my larger point is not to discuss what is wrong with that, because I think everyone knows. And in her apology, which I encourage you to seek it out if you would like, she does seem to make very aware of what she did. But again, it goes to the larger point that I probably wouldn't have known about that if she was not nominated for Best Actress or her movie was not nominated in Best Picture. The fact that all these things have popped up, from Zoe Saldana's blackface, which I did not even know about, and that was in 2016, to Fernando Torres. Like, where are these things coming from? Like, it's crazy. I actually made a whole video talking about this movie and how it got a Best Picture nomination, along with my own thoughts of it. So check it out there if you want more in-depth thoughts, but I really can't imagine how the whole country reacted when this got nominated. I mean, why can't this win Best International Feature? Like, why not? I'm still here. Please save us. Brazil, you have my love. I'm rooting for the movie. And that's every single Best Picture nominee and there's whole storyline, I guess. If more things pop up since I recorded and edited, which I'm sure it will, sorry. If I can say anything about this year that I have learned, is that anything is possible at the Academy now. You can have The Substance, a gory body horror movie nominated for multiple Oscars, and you can have Emilia Pérez, which is just bad. And maybe in a few weeks, this video will already be outdated. A new movie will storm out in front, and we're saved. All I'm trying to say is I'm already exhausted. This Oscar race has made me lose my fucking mind, and I don't know what's going on anymore, and I'm scared. Consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.